Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to My Deep Guide, and today we are doing the in-depth review of the iFlytek AINote 2. You remember the uber thin, uber light device that basically takes completely flat out the hardware design and the chassis design of the WeWood's ePaper. And then they take it further because they improve on quite a lot of things. So let's see what the iFlytek AINote 2 brings to the table. Out of the get-go, we have the thinnest and the lightest 10-ish inch device on the market, to call back on Jeremy Clarkson, in the world. 4.2 millimeters of thinness, under 300 grams for a 10.65 inch 300 ppi monochromatic device and screen. Even the ePaper itself is over 300 grams and it's considerably heavier. But not only that, it's got good internals, it's running on Android 14, which is Google Play certified, which means that you do have a Google Play Store out of the box, fully functional, on top of everything else that this device has to offer. It's actually focused on being an e-notebook and a replacement for your notepad paper, but it actually packs so much more punch than that. However, as a whole device approach and the user interface and the whole user experience, that is what it is centered for, and it's kind of minimizing all of the power that it does have as secondary things, and that's something that I really do appreciate, because this device has a focus, it has an identity, and it has a purpose that it offers to you as a user. You don't have to dig it out, you don't have to guess it, it's right there when you start using it. As far as the design goes, as I already mentioned, it is completely derivative of the WeWood's ePaper, and if you're interested in a direct comparison and analysis of that, I invite you to check out the first look on the AINote 2, which I already did. But with the WeWood's ePaper being they claim 4.5, but in actuality it's 4.6 millimeters thin, this one is 4.2, and it actually measures at around 4.24 when I use the calipers, which is really, really good. They've made it thinner, they've made it lighter at sub 300 grams, but it's still a really intelligent design because you do have the metal frame and construction going around, or basically holding everything inside, and you have the attention to details to pretty much everything. On the top, we do have a fingerprint sensor as a separate one. Then you have the button as well here. All metal, all manufactured perfectly. It feels really nicely made and polished. Everything is just manufactured really, really nicely. You have such lovely attention to detail that basically just make it an interesting device to interact with. Unlike the WeWood's ePaper that had like super sharp and really badly milled and badly modeled USB-C port, and their excuse was like, well, it's so thin that it's really, really difficult. Well, iFlytek managed to make it absolutely perfectly comfortable. It's not sharp, you can't cut yourself or anything like that. yet it's even thinner. And I really appreciate the small touches such as addition and attention to detail of anti-slip pads. Again, just talks about somebody actually using this device and caring enough to go through revisions to make it the best that they can. And AI2 delivers that on a really, really high level. On the back, we also have the addition of the pogo pins here, and that is because they do offer a keyboard cover folio as well. Unfortunately, I have not received in the package from iFlytek any kind of cover, so I can't really demonstrate or comment on how the regular cover fits, looks like, or what the manufacturing quality of it is like, neither on the keyboard cover itself. However, this is a Bluetooth enabled device, so you are able to use your favorite Bluetooth keyboards in conjunction with this device, and when I tested that, it all worked normally, unlike as the case was it with the Note Air 5C, surprisingly. Handling AINote 2 on a day-to-day basis feels completely different than any other device that I've handled so far, and that is because of three things and a very, very good balance of these three things. The first one is lightness, second one is thinness, and the third one is build quality and attention to detail while interacting with this device. The pretty much near perfect balance between these three elements makes it so that I'm really happy when I interact with this device. I feel like it's a different type of experience, and as a consequence, it invites me to want to use it more. And that's a testament to a really, really good design of a tablet. The device comes equipped with a magnetic snap-on EMR pen that holds the device very, very comfortably. And yeah, only when you start actually shaking it on all of that, then it kind of lets go. But other than that, it just snaps on into place normally, and it just stays there pretty solidly. The pen itself is, again, a take on the same type of model that we've seen on the Weavewood's AI paper. It's similar, but not the same. We have a slightly different button here. It's all plastic and it doesn't really feel that good or high quality, so it is a stark contrast. This feels noticeably cheaper, and as if it doesn't really belong in a package with a stylish device such as the AINote 2. That being said, it's been improved when compared to the AI paper pen because it does have this concave indentation, which increases the surface connection with the device and then provides for a more stable magnetic hold with the device. We have a button and we do have the end. This does function as an eraser. However, I find myself using the button mostly because it's been integrated in a smart function way. If you press the button while the pen is higher than 1 centimeter above from the screen, once you actually touch the screen, it will activate the erase functionality. And the erase functionality works really nice and fast. If you press and hold the button while the pen is either in contact with the screen or less than 1 centimeter away from the screen, then it will activate the lasso selection tool. As such, I found this functionality to be very reliable and really intuitive and easy to use on a day-to-day basis. This is an EMR pen, and thankfully they are, it's a normal 4096 pressures of sensitivity level pen. That means that you can actually replace it easily and use a pen that you like more. For example, the one that I do like more is the Kindle Scribe Premium pen, which is a higher quality and higher performing pen than this one. What is the problem with this pen? The problem is that the included nibs are not of your, normal standard. They have this small indentation here. So you can't really just go ahead and use any nib with this pen and have good results. So that in itself is a bit of an issue, but it kind of is exasperated and magnified because these nibs don't really feel that good, not the material itself, but when you start writing on the surface of the screen, and the screen surface is not super glass, it does have that some kind of texture on top applied. It's not a screen protector, it's a relief on the glass itself, and it offers nice kind of anti-reflectivity and stuff, but it also doubles as a writing feel. The problem with the pen in the nib material is that this is a very tall nib. And once you start writing, it starts to feel like the nib is kind of bending and getting to feel a little sticky and weird on the screen. It's not just the nib itself. When I try and use a Kindle Scribe Premium pen with different nibs, I still do get remnants of that stickiness feel. And I've been using the device for about 3 weeks or something like that. So it's not just the fact that it's a new screen. I think that that's basically how the texture feels and the combination of the relief and the felt tip nibs feels. So that's not that great, but in general, it's an okay pen. It works, it'll get you through the day. It's just that it feels a little bit cheap. It doesn't feel that it's in line with what the rest of the device is, and the writing feel, that stickiness kind of distracts and deters from an otherwise really pleasant and good writing experience. AINote 2 as an e-reader is a really good experience. Unfortunately, similarly to the problem that we've seen on the Penstar as well, it's using that library type of logic. And while the library type of logic is better implemented, it's still the same thing and still the same limitation, and the main one being, if you have a single organized folder with dozens or hundreds of documents in there that are all organized in your subfolders and things like that, you do not have an option of simply dragging and dropping that entire library onto your device and having the same folder hierarchy translate into there. You are going to be forced to manually move things around and manually introduce subfolders or shelves. So that's where it falls short as far as reader capabilities and functionalities go. However, once you do get your ebooks and documents onto the device, then things are quite good. Because we do have that 10.65 screen that's 300 ppi, and the contrast and the image quality on the AINote 2 appears to be really good to the naked eye. Remember, this is not a front-lit device, but once you actually start using it, it feels like it's glowing, even though it's not, simply because the blacks are rendered really well, and the whites appear to be brighter than other devices. I haven't checked the DAF results yet. That's going to be on camera when I'm going to be recording that section, so I'll see how it actually compares to others. But my personal impression is that it feels brighter than other counterparts that I would compare with this device. For example, Go 10.3 and the Supernote Manta. Reader functionalities are okay, but there are some bugs, particularly one with the hyperlinks not actually updating the page so that reader understands what its current page number is after jumping to a hyperlink. So when, for example, you have a table of contents document and I press of one of these, it will get me to that page, right? So you see the page number is correct. But if I now go to the next page and tap, it's going to go to the next page from where we were previously, which means that the reader doesn't really understand what the current page is, simply because it has not been updated after a hyperlink jump. This is the bug that I will report to iFlytek, and I'm pretty much convinced that this is something that's going to get fixed fairly soon, because in the 3 weeks that I've had a device here for testing so far, it has received numerous updates, fixes, and tweaks, which means that they are actively all working on it. So I would hope that this issue will get resolved fairly quickly. And this is the reason why MDO, for example, my daily organizer, that you can find on mydeepguide.com/shop, will function, but it will have that problem. It will be an issue if you try to flip a page after navigating via hyperlink, and since you're navigating completely, like 99% of the time you're navigating via hyperlinks on MDO, that means that you may experience some really perceived strange behavior or unexpected behavior if you use MDO on AINote 2 right now before this has been fixed. However, once I do become aware that this issue has been fixed, I will issue a pinned comment on this video so that people in the future who may be referencing this video after this issue has hopefully been fixed know that it actually is something that's no longer the case. hopefully. One thing that you need to be aware of is this device does not have an accelerometer, but it does have a rotation function. However, that rotation function is manually enabled by swiping from top and pressing on the rotation functionality. And in the settings, you have the option of determining what is your preferred rotation, clockwise or anti-clockwise, but no auto rotation here. As a notebook replacement or an e-notebook device, this is where AINote 2 truly shines, and this is what it's been designed to do. And you can see that from the user interface in the home, because the majority of the user interface is dedicated to notebooks, inviting you to just continue working with a notebook. And you also have a quick notebook physical or capacitive button with a gesture, which you can just simply slide from wherever you are, gets a pop-up window, and you can take your quick note that way, no matter what it is that you may be working on. Notebook experience is excellent. It has quite a lot of capabilities that you would expect from it, but not super fancy and super big ones. Again, here it's really focused, and it's trying to integrate the AI functionality here. But this is the first time where it's actually able to do this. And in order for me to properly kind of demonstrate to you what the power of the AINote 2's notebook is all about, I'm going to show you the experience that I've had and the conclusion that I've ended up with when I was testing the voice capture or the voice recording functionality of the AINote 2. Primarily, I'm going to be testing out both the AINote 2 and the eNote Pro. The audio capturing and translation capabilities and functionalities. And instead of doing just like a, arbitrary random kind of test, I wanted to use it in a situation when I would actually use something like this. I just loaded like space architecture pioneers and their design lecture, part of a space architecture course that I'm interested in, and it's a 35-minute lecture. That's a video, so it's going to be playing with audio obviously on my phone here. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to activate all three of the devices. Here I have Books Note Max, just to kind of also test this kind of thing, because I haven't tested it before and it's a nice point of reference. AINote 2 and eNote Pro. But the primary test here is going to be the AINote 2. So I'm going to be taking my notes only on the AINote 2, and I'm going to take a couple of example notes only on the eNote Pro, just to double check one of the functionalities that it has. Obviously, I'm gonna fast forward and time lapse this video and then show you maybe some examples when something meaningful happens. But the whole idea is I'm gonna put myself into a very real situation, real scenario, and see how does this actually look like and how applicable these devices are and these features are in a real setting. All right, so we are starting the recording process on all three of them, and it's working, so let's start.
Welcome to the 9th edition of the Space Architecture and Design Online course. My name is Barbara Imhoff. I'm a space architect.
I also welcome you. My name is René Václaviček, and I'm a space architect too. And together, we will present you space architecture pioneers and their design.
What you're going to learn about is Galina Balashova and Raymond Loewy, two pioneers in space architecture, and about their designs from the early days of space station building.
As a learning outcome, you will know about the involvement of architects and designers in the development of early space stations. First, we make you familiar with the early Soviet space program, since the Russians were the first to build space stations. In parallel, we show you the involvement of architect Galina Balashova, who may be considered as the first space architect. Balashova started her career in 1957 in the art department of the Experimental Design Bureau, OKB-1, led by rocket engineer Sergei Korolev. Being the first and only architect in the Soviet space program at the time, Balashova's role was, at the beginning, to plan residencies for employees.
picture displays the operating setup with 5 main components from right to left. The workshop module inside the modified propellant tank. By fixing the thighs between the brackets of the fixture, astronauts could use their legs to keep their position at the table, as you see in this picture, taken at the Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum. Here, a picture in flight from 1973 during the Skylab 3 mission, showing scientist astronaut Owen Garriott using both hands preparing a pre-packed food container at the dining table.
Well, that was certainly crap. That's that. I'm gonna stop the recordings and I'm gonna see what I can do with these recordings on each of the platforms and how they actually perform. That was fairly easy to do. When I stopped the process, I just went to the AI icon that they have here, and it's consistent throughout the system. And when you go to the AI aid, you got 3 options here. So the meeting minutes is just going to consider the meeting recordings converted to text, and then it's going to summarize that. And when you go there, I've already done it. Well, he's doing it again, but obviously he remembered. And it's using ChatGPT 5, and this is basically what it does. So yeah, as usual, you will have to take these results with a huge grain of salt, simply because all of the commercially available LLMs, so-called AIs, are extremely prone to hallucinating. You get to be in a situation where you absolutely have to proofread these minutes. Thankfully, they have thought about that. It's incredibly easy to simply read through all of that, and then you can use the keyboard, either hardware or the tapping one here, to correct these things. And here you can of course use input for tapping, you can write as an input, or you can even dictate to it. So the overall kind of flow of working is incredibly streamlined and really, really straightforward. I think that, the meeting minutes work exceptionally well as a user experience. Then we have OCR format, and this is basically taking into consideration the content that you were writing in the notebook while you were recording all of the audio stuff. And it says OCR refinement applies to all visible pages. If any page does not need refinement, you can hide it in page management. And then you can go to page management here, and you can basically say, hey, which one do I want to use? And they take it a step further, because when you click on a page in the page management, it automatically takes you to the page. So let's see, I've never used this before. Let's see, how do they take it into consideration? How do you hide it? Well, you go to the menu and you go hide. And let's say that I want to hide just the first page and want it to summarize only from these 2. Then I have to go back to here, OCR format again, and now it's formatting. And there we go. So far, from what I can see just at a glance, this is looking fairly good. If I wanted to edit this, no, I can't, but I can just regenerate or accept. And then I have 2 options: insert at the beginning of the note or insert and hide the original page, which is fantastic because, again, that's streamlined, straightforward, effortless type of workflow and user experience. And yeah, sure, I want to have my summary of the notebook as the front thing. So now I need to find a way to go back to my notebook summary. There we go. And I can now show all pages. And now I have the option of, this is my summary that was OCR'd. Then I have my original notebooks. And this is incredibly straightforward and frictionless to use. Then we have text creation is the final one. Manuscript creation, impromptu speech, official document writing, marketing copy, inspired creation, study life, others. I guess that can be useful for some things, but that's not something that I'm interested in, in my use case scenarios. The playback can work, and I've tried it via the Bluetooth headphones. And the cool thing about it is that you can grow this further and further and further along because you can just go resume. Now, the thing that's less cool is that I don't have any audio management system. I can't really start a new recording in the same notebook. Now you can simply tap on sections that you were writing, and let's say, for example, that I'm interested, like, oh, the shower. What were they talking about when they were showered? And the picture shows Austrian jock Loss Ma taking a shower in the deployable challenge itself. And this really, really works because it changes the way that you can take notes, because it opens up the space for me to actually write down a reminder, such as, for example, waste management, right? And then as I'm listening this, I can write down my thoughts or a reminder without worrying that I'm missing something that's being spoken about, because I can just tap on it and I can always come back to it in this written generation thing. So really, really exceptionally good stuff. And finally, I think that I'm just going to open a new page, and I'm going to go insert into Note, and it instantly inserted into Note as a text box the whole transcript. So all of it, and you can see the progress bar here. So all of the transcript here is, right there, and I can put it in the end if I want to, or in the beginning. It doesn't matter because you have your page management and it's contained in a single page, which is really, really cool. Now let's see, can I change the background template of this page only? So for example, here I don't want that template, but here I want a template. Yeah, that works. That definitely works. And here I have like an extra page that I don't need. So let's get rid of that page. Yes, nope, not cancel, but confirm. And before you know it, at the end of a lecture here, I end up with a OCR'd content of my notebook as the first page. Then I have my actual notes and my notebook that I can simply tap on, and it will start playing or tell me where I am, because if I were connected to a Bluetooth or to headphones, you would actually start hearing this because it automatically starts playing it. But it doesn't really, disturb you with popping examples or anything. So you can stay in a completely focused mode here. And then I can just go waste management, and now it's starting to play the whole thing from the place where you want. This is absolutely fantastic. I mean, for meetings, for studying, for any kind of use, is absolutely freaking fantastic. And when I go to the end of this notebook, I've inserted as a text box full transcript of the recording. And all of that done completely effortlessly without any problems. As far as I'm concerned, this is like 10 out of 10. I'm really glad that I did that experiment as a real-world use case scenario, because otherwise I probably would have missed out on so many frictionless user experience solutions. What you've seen here was me using this for the very first time. I've never used it before, I've never tested it before or anything. I just started testing it directly on camera right there. And I encountered zero issues, zero friction, zero confusion, and I had maximum amount of functionality from a feature set like that. All of my expectations of a device that's actually doing something like that, so for example, for lectures or for meetings, they were met and surpassed. I'm sure that somebody else is going to be able to say like, oh, from my perspective, I'm missing this or something like that. And that's perfectly fine. I'm just telling you what my own personal experience was. And I've shared it with you guys so that you can see on camera as well how things were done and what was done with it, so that you have a more objective perspective about this. The writing experience itself, as I mentioned, you have that kind of sticky-ish kind of feel, but the writing latency is good. It's really, really uniform. The writing precision is very good, and the brushes feel really good. And most importantly, it doesn't really feel like writing on hard, slippery glass. The only kind of tripping point for me is that sense of stickiness, and it hasn't really gotten away in the several weeks that that I've had the device and used it. But other than that, it's a really pleasant device to write on and to interact with. And when I switched to the Kindle Scribe Premium pen, then it feels even better and a lot more comfortable to use as an e-notebook. Another really powerful and important aspect of the AINote 2 is the scheduler, which is basically your organizer for your calendar, tasks, in weeks, days, or anything like that. And those tasks are also integrated into the notebook and the AI functionality. So you can actually create a fairly intricate, network between the organizer, the tasks, the calendar, which can be linked to your Google Calendar as well, if that's what you're using. But so far, I think it's only Google Calendar integration. But then again, in combination with the Google Play Store as well, that's something that's quite cool. And also you can use the email agent as Gmail or Outlook or anything like that. So you have all of these office related functionalities that make it an incredibly powerful e-notebook assistant for your work, studying, or anything like that. It's deceptively powerful, but also really simple and intuitive to use. That's a very difficult thing to nail right. So job done then, right? This is a perfect device and you just should go ahead and buy it and everything's perfect. Well, hold on to your horses, because there's one massive downside to all that is concerned with the AINote 2, and that is, in order to have access to all of that functionality, it's all completely locked down behind a user account. You do have a guest mode, which severely limits the functionalities and the benefits that this platform brings to the table. There's like 3 major issues here. First one is obvious. Are you going to be okay with something like that? When you have a device that is so functional, so capable, and so well integrated and effortless, it's so inviting to use, you will want to use it for many different things. But you gotta remain aware that all of that content will be going through someone else's servers. It doesn't matter if it's Amazon, if it's Google, or if it's something like that, it's going through someone else's servers. And that is something that in today's day and age, you really need to be mindful of. The second point is that even if you're okay with something like that, and you think, okay, I'm gonna be careful, I'm just gonna use it for this and that. Well, in a professional environment, you won't be able to use this device because no IT department worth their salt will let a device like this anywhere near their infrastructure. It is simply way too big of a risk. For professional, proper office use, this is going to be a complete deal breaker, unfortunately, because absurdly, this device is absolutely perfectly tailored for office use, especially like for taking, meeting minutes and things like that. But then you couple it with this limitation, which makes it functionally, not usable in that environment. iFlytek should take a book from Remarkable and offer encrypted data, full-on encrypted data on the device, if it's hardware capable of doing that. And also they should look at what Supernote is doing with the Supernote private cloud offering and have an alternative to something like that. Because even if you are okay with all of this, if you use the ChatGPT 5 account here, you're using someone else's account. Do you understand the implications of that? You're not even owning that data of that ChatGPT account, because iFlytek naturally is not providing a dedicated OpenAI account per device. That's not how it works. But that means that data of multiple users goes through an account that's not theirs. Somebody else owns that account. Think about that. And point number 3 is then, where can you actually use it? Well, as a study device. For students, That is something where I think this device can truly shine because of the capabilities that I've already talked about and demonstrated, but also because of lower security requirements that universities and schools actually require. So that's where I think that the AINote 2 can really find their audience and can deliver the best that they have. But even so, even in that scenario, you gotta be aware of the privacy and security implications of a device like that. So it's a trade-off. You get truly a ton of functionality and really something that you wanna use and you can use on a day-to-day basis. But you pay for it with definitely compromised levels of privacy and security. So that's the overview of the AINote 2. Now let's proceed to the Display Analysis Framework, or the DAF, and see how it actually performs when we put it through the paces. And we start the DAF analysis of the AINote 2 with the readability. And AINote 2 performs very strongly across the board in the readability category, and we can see with the standard fonts at 100% blackness, 70% blackness, and even stepping down to 50% blackness, it all remains perfectly readable and the clarity is excellent. Stepping up the challenge and going to thin fonts at 100% blackness, it just is not fazed by this at all, even at 6 points. Very clear, very legible. Even stepping down to 50% of blackness and thin fonts at 6 points font size, which is like the hardest thing that these devices can be asked to deliver, it is delivering. Checking out the thick fonts, which are there to expose the cell bleeding and the precision, so if the fonts become blobby or not. And we can actually see fairly good performance here at 100% blackness, and when stepping down to 50% blackness, obviously it improves because the intensity is lower. Moving on to contrast and uniformity, where I am testing out the rendering of pure white and pure black colors in excellent 4000 lux, average 750 lux, and poor 125 lux lighting conditions, all three at 5000 kelvins. And in the display portion of the test, the camera is compensating for the differences to exactly match them along to expose any potential weaknesses in rendering white and black colors, but we can see that it's actually fairly uniform. The most important portion of the test is of course the observable portion of the test, because this is what you will be able to see in these different lighting conditions. And this not being a front-lit device, that's an especially important part. And we can see that the white color is rendered fairly well. We can also see that the rendering of black is not that great. It could be a bit more saturated. Naturally, it drops down, brighter the conditions are. But in excellent lighting conditions, you can actually see that the blackness is being washed out a little bit. Ghosting performance in HD refresh mode is actually excellent. Really excellent in text, in graphics. It's a little bit higher, but yeah, text and combined, excellent performance all around. And when we go to speed refresh mode, we can actually see that it's employing some type of tactic that allows progressive cleaning up to make it really clean, virtually ghosting free, which kind of matches the experience that I've had with this device while navigating around, reading, writing, and doing all sorts of things. There were very few situations where I would actually see some of the ghosting remnants. Reflectivity characteristics of the screen surface on the AINote 2 are excellent, absolutely excellent. We have almost complete diffusion of the reflections, where there's no hint of a line anywhere, and it's just a very nice fall off. And as you can see in the sharpness, we do not have a sharp line anywhere to be seen. It's just a nice smooth gradient here, and the intensity levels never actually get to be super high either. So overall, excellent performance as far as reflectivity goes. Refresh time from a combined full page, flipping over to a completely blank page and then measuring out how long it takes for the device to settle itself. In HD mode, it took 392 milliseconds, and in speed mode, it went down to 193 milliseconds. While this is not the fastest performance that we've seen, it is certainly fast enough for it to be more than plenty usable in all of the day-to-day operations. And the speed refresh method combined with the really effective deghosting performance of text and combined images is a really nice combination, although I preferred using HD simply for display quality attributes. And when we check the surface roughness performance of the AINote 2, we start to kind of get an explanation to why the writing feel was so combined and never getting to a really good category on the AINote 2. And we can see that we have a combination of really low RA result here, so roughness is really low, but most crucially important is the roughness curve itself. It does not have a paper-like structure at all. It doesn't have the healthy distribution of sharp peaks and dull valleys, nor room for the pen nib to actually fall into the grooves and give you a nice, satisfying tactile feel. This is just simply, it's just simply a noisy type of a texture, and there's not really much that you can do about it as far as the nibs and compensation goes. So it's not a complete deal breaker, but this is definitely one of the weaker points of the AINote 2. Surface to screen distance on the AINote 2 is excellent at 0.6 millimeters. So that brings the content of the display closer to the surface, making it more immersive, easier to read, there's less distortions happening, a really nice thing to see. Writing latency on the AINote 2 is quite good at around 20 milliseconds average. It was a little bit inconsistent with sometimes going, as here, 20.85 milliseconds. It had a couple of runs at under 20 milliseconds, but on average, it averages at around 20 milliseconds, which makes it on par with what we expect from devices of this type today. Checking out now the DAF results, and I'm going to be comparing the iFlytek AINote, represented as blue here, with the Boox Go 10.3, another 300 ppi non-front lit monochromatic device. Orange, and the red represents Supernote Manta, also non-front lit, 300 ppi, and this time it's apples to apples because it too is also 10.65 inch screen size like the AINote 2 is. And we can see that even though the readability results, I did find them impressive, I think that it was just simply the case of me reviewing quite a few Kaleido 3 panels and getting used to the fuzziness, and then just kind of like the breath of fresh air finally checking out a monochromatic display. But when compared directly to the Go 10.3 and the Manta, it's actually performing worse than either of the two, except in the thin font performance, which, as I noted, it was really good. But Supernote Manta simply outperforms in readability category both of these devices strongly, and AINote 2, although competitive and definitely in the same ballpark, ever so slightly it underperforms when compared to these two. In contrast and uniformity, however, that's where we see what I was reacting to mostly, which was that it seemed to be brighter and that it had the most contrast or more contrast than other devices. And we can clearly see that in the observable visual score, that it's actually scoring the highest when compared to either Supernote Manta, and particularly with the Go 10.3, which we all know is a darker device generally speaking. So there's quite a noticeable difference between these, and AINote 2 emerges on top. As far as display consistency goes, well, this is where we see those artifacts, especially in the black content, and they were quite present across all of the lighting conditions. And we can see that uniformity or lack of uniformity in the dark content is something that pulls back the score. So therefore, as an overall score, it performs a little bit better than the Go 10.3, but still a little bit under the Supernote Manta. Reflectivity is where this one really is kind of dominant, and we can see that the sharpness, the diffusion was really impressive. Where it could do a little bit better is with slightly lower intensity levels as well, because we can see better performance in Go 10.3 and Manta as far as that goes. But that sharpness diffusion is so strong and so dominant that it actually pulls the reflectivity overall, reflectivity performance to be on top when compared to the other two devices. Ghosting performance, as we've seen, is really exceptionally good on this device, and we can see that it clearly outperforms by a very confident margin the other two. Surface roughness is where it kind of falls short, and this is something that I kept reacting to, that even though it does have that paper-like type of structure, it was a strange feeling all of the time, and it never felt really that super confident and pleasant, no matter which pen I actually ended up using. There's something about the surface that they are using, or the profile curve, that it simply doesn't lend itself to feel that good or authentic for writing purposes, especially because it has that combination of a almost kind of sticky feel, and we can see that it simply falls behind, very far behind, both the Go 10.3 and the Supernote Manta. There's something strange about that writing surface. It's not a deal breaker, and it's definitely not like super glass, but something is not as what you would expect it to. Refresh time is good on the AINote 2, slightly better than Supernote Manta, but not quite as fast as the Book's Go 10.3. And it has excellent writing latency at 20.02 milliseconds average, so not as fast as the Supernote Manta, and it doesn't confidently go under, even though some of the runs were like in the 18 millisecond range, but the others would actually go to 22 milliseconds, so it was kind of teetering here and there, and that meant that the overall average is at 20 milliseconds, which is still twice as good and twice as fast, and actually exactly twice as fast than the Book's Go 10.3. This is one of the aspects that I really love about the AINote, and that is the surface to screen distance at 0.6 millimeters, which outperforms both of these devices, and it simply brings the content closer to the surface, making it more immersive and making it more pleasant overall experience, especially on a super thin device like this one. Battery life is not its strong point for some reason for reading. It's not a terrible performance at 25 hours per charge of continuous reading with page flipping every 20 seconds, but it's not really in the same category like the Go 10.3 and the Supernote Manta. Whether or not something was actually eating the battery in the background for this one during the test or not, well, I'm not really sure, but I'm pretty sure that there's room for optimizations and improvements via the software updates to actually bring this level up, because when you start stressing the device, and that is when you start writing, that's where it will expose the true potential and capacity and performance of the battery, because then the device really needs to work hard to capture the writing. And here it performs very confidently with 10 hours of continuous writing per charge, which is still not good as the 12.5 hours of Go 10.3, but better than Supernote Manta. And what I always say is that in this measure, anything above 8 hours of continuous writing is an excellent performance. So what does this mean? How does the AINote 2 compare in the final DAF results? It actually outperforms both of them simply because it has those couple of aspects that are really important. Most important one of them being the contrast and uniformity, and the contrast performance on this one is just really, really strong. When we check it out as an e-reader, it again outperforms either of the two devices, as well as a notebook, as well as an e-tablet. So overall, excellent performance of the AINote 2. Well, there you go. So that is the iFlytek AINote 2. In many ways, this is one of the most impressive devices that has come out in 2025 as far as I am concerned. From the design, lightness, thinness, how it feels when you're interacting with it, and then when you actually start interacting with it, the focus of the user experience, the frictionless user experience that it has, all of it is on a different level than the competitors. It may not have all of the functionalities of a super notebook, but the thing that really makes it special is how easy, straightforward, and logical it is to use for real-world tasks. And the audio recording, transcription, and integration on real-world usability of the recording is unmatched on any other ePaper platform. Some are trying to kind of replicate it, but none of them actually come close to, again, the effortlessness and the logic of how easy it is to use this. And this is a really important point, because if you are going to use a device in a real-world setting, you cannot be fumbling around menus, because that means that once you start hitting a point of friction, fumbling with the menus, fumbling with the user experience, being confused or something, it will steal away from the focus and you won't use that anymore. You will revert back to what your preferred method is. And that's what makes this platform so freaking powerful, because it actually replaces the traditional methods by making it more accessible, easier, and more logical to use in those situations. Unfortunately, we have that lockdown behind a user account, which is a really big issue. For me personally, that's a huge issue. And even if I find myself in situations where I'm allowed to use this device, I would be very, very conflicted, as I am right now. Because on one hand, you have definitely a device that I can wholeheartedly recommend for what it can do, but at the cost of privacy and security concerns. That's why I don't know if I can recommend this device or not. The best I can give you is my wholehearted, honest look at this and share with you the ambivalence that I also feel when I'm interacting with this device, because I really want this power in my life. I really want it on my day-to-day basis. But I really don't want the intrusiveness, and especially not after I've, deployed the Supernote private cloud on my own private server here at home. That gives a very different perspective overall, and then approaching a service like this gives me the heebie-jeebies. And knowing how tech works, knowing what happens under the hood, what kind of a, harvesting industry, the data collection industry is, especially now with the LLM models and the AI bubble going to epic proportions, the demand for your own personal data is higher than ever. And this, unfortunately, is a data harvesting machine, even though iFlytek is not the one who's going to be collecting that data, because they don't get to touch it, as far as they say, because it automatically goes to other servers, but it still goes to those other servers. And that is a problem definitely worth keeping in mind. So the AINote 2, what a difficult device to reach a conclusion on, and actually I don't yet have a conclusion on. And that's why I want responses from you guys down here in the comments down below, maybe also on the Discord as well, because I think it's a device really, really well worth discussing on and trying to figure out where are the hard limits that you would personally kind of draw the line on, and what compromises would you be willing to kind of part with as far as privacy and security goes, in exchange for the power and functionalities and, quite frankly, uber sexiness of a device like this. Do let me know in the comments down below and in the Discord as well, as I will open up a dedicated channel for the AINote too. I hope that you liked the video, and if you did, please remember to subscribe if you are not already subscribed. Thank you so much for watching, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!